Okay, so I don't know what happened, but I noticed that my camera went off. Luckily I had my flash on, which told me that it went off. So I don't know why that was. So I will merge those two videos. If for some reason it didn't catch the first part, you'll catch up, because I will catch up. So we poured 95 of A and B, and B is yellow. Yep. That video turning off like threw me for a curveball. So B in first. I know that I'm just kind of jumping around because I want to get this resin mixing. So we are doing coasters with a twist. We are going to turn them into Trinket dishes, which is fun. So the goal is you get your resin all poured and done, and then once we get that, we let it set for about 4 hours, and then we will mold them into the shape we want of the Trinket dishes, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I haven't done this tutorial before with y'all. It's hard to do because I have to do this one in the daytime. And if you watch my other tutorials, you'll know that I typically pour in the evening time so that I'm not tempted to unmold too early. That's just kind of how I have learned to do my actions so that I'm not tempted to mess with it. Okay, getting these as much as I can. Seems pretty good. Pretty good. So we'll bring our little mixer, my best of friend. It saves my wrist from, oops, I guess I'm sticking, I got resin on my gloves. This little guy's from Hobby Lobby. It is a full mixer. It's not going to do all of our work, but it helps so much. Okay, so we're going to let this one spin about 3 minutes. So a little after 5 minutes. Now, while it's spinning, we're going to prep our molds. And I have learned gloves and prepping molds is just not a great combo. It just doesn't seem to work very well for me. So we're going to take our glovies off, which is sort of a pain. Once I put them on, I try not to take them off until the end. But I'm going to slide this just back so you can see it's still going and bring our molds into our picture. You can see these are dirty. They've got some gunk in them. So we definitely want to clean them. So they've just been sitting in my workspace and ended up with dry resin or hairs. This one I think was on top of this one, so this one didn't get hit as much. There's some like glitter and I guess that's rubbing alcohol that landed in there. Okay. And then I'm just using some masking tape. You can use packing tape, you can use Scotch tape, masking tape, any sort of tape. It's going to pick up all the little fine details that are in there, and the big ones too. And I'll get a fresh one to finish this one off, but this one still had a little sticky, so we just rolled. Not way too big of a piece. But I'm just trying to clean them so that when we pour our resin into them, they are just nice and clean from other projects, and we don't have to worry about getting stuff on them. Alright, we have about another minute. So I'm going to gather everything I want. I'm going to use this apple green mica. We are doing green coasters. I had done some playing around with the greens and how I wanted to do them already on previous tutorials. So now we're going to actually put some of this to use on our stuff. So I'm just trying to find. And normally I would pull all this out, but I was like, we're popping into the craft space and we're just going to make this happen really fast. Not like we're going to work super fast per se. It's just I want to come on and give y'all this tutorial. Let's see. What else do I want? This one. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, Maddie. Oh, Mally. That's what it made me think of. Oh, Mally. From Aristocats. Oh, Mally. One last thing I want. We're so close to having everything where I want it to be for convenience of our crafting, where I don't have to like walk everywhere in the craft space, which is nice to get what I need when I need it. But we're still a little bit there. It's just a little, I think it's still not quite where I want it to be. But it's okay. It's coming along. I can't find what I'm envisioning in my head. What? Where did it go? This is it. This is it. Yep. Okay. We are ready. I think that's been spinning quite a bit. Let's put our gloves back on. I've got mica, I've got alcohol ink. I do want to grab a few. Oh, I forgot our casting craft. Ooh, we need that. Luckily I know right where it is. It's just I'm not already getting myself to it. Okay, casting craft. Now, let's get some paper cups. Because alcohol ink, I do not like to mix in my silicone cups because it just ends up staining them. Not that it ruins them, but it's just a thing that I'm particular about. Alright, alright. So I'm going to turn this little guy off. We're going to have to level that out. It's feeling teetery. The trick with this is don't unscrew your screws all the way because this little guy flips up. And now your cup does suction in. But I've learned that, so now I'm good. And I always go ahead and do a mix of my own because, let's be real, we want to make sure that it is fully mixed up. I'm going to scrape my tool off and reintegrate that. I just think that's a good way to make sure that we're full on mixed in. Now, I'll set that to the side for a moment. Let's get this table level. What is going on with it? Oh, maybe because I'm on something. Okay, there we go. Yep, it was because I was on. So I love because it has the level in it and it has adjustable feet. But usually, now that I have this great table, I've not had any issues because this table is sturdy and level, so I haven't had issues, which I like. Okay, make sure we're still recording. So I like to pound that down a couple times. Put a little heat in it. And we are going to pour our clear in and let it sit for about 5 minutes. So that's why I'm always like, we got to get this part done, because we've got to get it situated. So yes, you'll see a lot of bubbles, but we're not really worried about that. What I'm most worried about is getting a full coverage. Oops. I hate when I do that. I don't like when I do that. But it's done. We want a full coverage of the base, because we want that clear to be in there so that it can help fluid our colorants. You don't want it super full, because we're going to add more resin with our colorants, and that's going to fill us more up along the edges. So we're not really worried about that side. What we're worried about is getting a full coverage. Now we have lots of bubbles, so a couple little slaps to the bottom. Of course, we're not going super far down, but just enough to get us some reaction. Heat down on low. And come through here. Pop a lot of these surface ones. And if you have a big one, we'll get it popped too. I'm not overly worried. About the micro ones. I know that was a door. I was thinking about the center of our flowers and trying to figure out what I'm doing, and yeah. It's a big bubble back there, but I'll show you how we're going to get here. Okay. So it looks pretty good. We have a few persnickety ones. Let me find the right silicone brush. Oh, let's use this one. So it's a silicone brush. I never want to use anything metal, because when we poke down here, that metal could dent your mold essentially, and then your mold is going to have that dent or that line in it for every pour going forward. So basically, on any bubble that's really big, that's noticeable to the eye, we're just scraping it to the bottom and bringing it up to the top, to the surface. We just want to make sure that it comes to the surface. Once it's to the surface, we can get it popped. It's when it's stuck on the bottom that you can't really get it popped. So, and we could spritz a little rubbing alcohol if we wanted, but like I said, I'm not overly worrying about the micro bubbles, because the color is going to hide those. It's those bigger bubbles that cause issues and craters on our finished product. And I'm moving the resin pretty significantly with the heat gun, just to make sure that I get all that coverage and pop as many bubbles as I can. So, but you don't want to go too crazy. You could burn your mold, or you could set the resin on fire. So you just gotta be, it's a fine dance, okay? Fine dance. So I was thinking about the centers, and I always like to put, you know, like a little yellow or gold in the center to define our center of the flower. With these, I'm going to also do a little bit of glass, this green glass, to give us a little texture in the center and just an extra little look. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to need a ton, I'm just going to put a little bit of resin. I probably could have even used a little silicone cup, but that's okay. Just very small amount of resin, okay? And let me get a little scoop. Let me get, and I guess I should look at the time. Okay. So by like 14, we should really start pouring. 14, 15 minutes. I'm just going to take a little scoop of this and put in there. Excuse me. Still recovering from this nastiness that I've had. And I'm just going to put, it's not going to take much. I'm going to put like a dot of those in. So I actually probably had too much resin in this container for what I wanted. That's okay. And I'm going to take a little bit more just to build that up. I wanted some to already be mixed in the resin, but it's going to sink. This is really heavy, so it's glass is heavier than the resin, so it's going to sink down, which is what I wanted. Then I'm going to take our gold. Goodness gracious, that was on tight. And it's kind of overflowing, so I don't want to put it over my piece too much. And I'm going to just put the tiniest amount, like, you know, it's not going to take much. And that's going to get thrown, the extra is going to get thrown in a dump pour that we'll do. And that dump pour mold is, I saw it recently. And I was like, oh yes, I love that. I love that mold. But now, of course, I want it. Like I don't know what to put in. Okay. Where did you go? It's one of my faves. One of my favorites. That's why I thought it was in my space, because I was like, surely I didn't put it away, but maybe I had this crazy cleaning idea. Oh no, here it is. I did not have a crazy cleaning idea. We're going to do this dump mold. There's a piece of resin dry. And that's what we're going to use our extra in. Okay, so back to this. I'm just going to mix that resin with the mica in just a small area. Because I don't need this whole container mixed with it. And then I'm going to just take a little bit and put it right where I want it, which is right in the center. And then that will kind of show through as well. It's not going to be a ton, but it's definitely going to pop a little bit. This one got a little bit more glass than I intended. That's okay. I dripped down the side of my leveling table. Goodness. Being messy today. So then the rest of this, just kind of mixing that mica fully in where I hadn't. I'm going to just start dump pouring it into here so that it's starting this dump pour, because we don't need it for our coasters anymore. Now you could have done this in a silicone cup, that would have been fine. Other than the glass might have scratched your silicone cup, so paper is probably the best route to go. I'm just going to try to make that kind of go to all the sides, so you know, it's not just this one side that's closest to me having all of it. Yay! Okay, cool. So that's that. These are setting up really nicely. I can tell just by when I was putting the mica and the glass in how they are coming together. So we are getting really close, and it's been 20. Yep, we're at 20, so we said about 19. So we're right about where we want to be. I'm just going to clean up the strip down the side of my table that I did. Okay. Wipe off my gloves because my gloves are a mess. And we're going to start. This is where we got to go a little bit quicker with our stuff because we have to make sure that we get it all poured in. Okay, so alcohol ink, mica, and our casting craft, which our cup is not sitting level. It's sitting up on our mold. Let me keep it simple. I think on the other, I did like maybe a couple micas and a couple alcohol inks. I'm going to keep this one very simple. Oh my God, I'm being just a disastrous mess, y'all. It's not like me. Like, why am I doing that? Being all crazy messy. I got worried that my video stopped. I was like, oh my gosh. Panicked. Once it does it to you once, you're like, okay, you do it to me again? Well, what's going on? Okay. So, for our mica, I am going to do that apple green and a little bit of this black green. I'm really not going to do much. I just want to darken our apple green a little bit. So I'm going to use that end of the stir stick for the black green. And then I'm going to use this end of the stir stick, the thicker end, for our apple green. A couple healthy scoops in it. For our alcohol ink, I am doing a cobalt green. And I want a lot of that, which is why I poured quite a bit. I'm going to do a fruit green. Not as much of it, but a few drops. And a little bit of kiwi green. Just almost gives it a minty kind of feel. And then casting craft, you definitely want to shake it. And we want it to be about 5 to 6 drops probably. Maybe 7. That's really hard to get out. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do 8 because this is a pretty big thing of resin. Alright, so we got to get these mixed and poured in, which is exciting. So, stir sticks. Here we go. The powder, of course, I've said this probably many other times if you've watched other videos. You're mixing liquid into powder, so you got to make sure the powder is all mixed in with the liquid. You don't want any powdery clumps, and you want to make sure that your resin, all the liquid, has touched the colorant, because you don't want to have streaky colored and clear mixed together, or not mixed, I guess, because you'll pour a funky thing. I really like this green. That came out great. That came out really good. Yep. Hubby must be back from the store. No, because you're going crazy. That's another reason why I don't do it. So this looks really dark in the cup, but when I pull it up, it looks really good. Oh, look how the alcohol ink like absorbed into the cup. That's funny. Oh, I like that a lot. That's exactly what I was going for. Alright, this should turn white. Alcohol ink is easier to disperse because it's liquid into liquid. Craft and Cast is going to be kind of a combo. It is a liquid, but it's a real thick liquid, so you really want to make sure you mix it well, because otherwise you do get these stringy white things, white strips. So I am full on mixing. Oops. Alright. Now I could put this in a piping bag and then I would be able to pipe it in on there. It actually does make for a prettier thing. And I have some piping bags near me. I was like, I'm going to put piping bags over here so that I have them. And now that I need them, I'm not seeing them, which is so bizarre. So bizarre. I decided that now that I said that I want a piping bag, or that I could do a piping bag, I'm like, oh, a piping bag would be really actually nice, because it does give cleaner white lines for it. So I'll just, oh, we're gonna grab one. Oh, I know we're pushing on time, but you know. Okay. Nothing like being in Beck's Craft Space to not have a little rush, a feeling of rush, you know. So this is just a cake piping bag. You can get them on Amazon, like 100 of them for really cheap. I like to slide mine into a paper cup and kind of turn it inside out so that I can transfer it easier and get it all the way to the bottom, hopefully, of the piping bag, and not have it all up the sides of the piping bag. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer. I'm not going to get every last bit because I know that I'm going to have plenty in that cup. I'm going to set it to the side because it's the last thing we need. Now, we're going to go lightest to heaviest. So our rubbing alcohol is, or not rubbing alcohol, our alcohol ink is the thinnest or the lightest. Mica is heavy. Crafting Cast always goes last. So that's just kind of how we're going to do it. This one I'm going to do petals. I'm just going to, not going to be anything pretty. See how ugly that is? Yeah, we're going to have more than enough resin. This one I'm going to do swirls. I might make these a little bit thicker. I was kind of doing a squiggly thing, which is fine. Yeah, we're going to have plenty of resin. This is kind of fun because you can see how the difference of each one is going to come out. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more into this one, just so that we have a little bit more resin to fill it up. Okay. And then the nice thing is, once you've turned it right side out, look at that, it all just kind of goes to the bottom. Now you do have to put, I always twist it so that I'm got a good grip on it, and we've got to cut just the tiniest. I always start out small and then go bigger. Tiniest hole. Yep, that's pretty perfect. And then with this one, I'm going to do the petals. Again, it does not have to be artistic. You don't have to be like this perfect flower. This is nature. Nature is unique, and it's going to have differences. And once we start moving the resin in the directions that we want it to go, you're not going to notice this crazy scribbling. Okay, it's just not going to be an issue. Now this one I am giving pretty good pressure so that I get a really thick white line. Trying to sort of stop it when I come through my petals here, but there. And I'm going to just go all the way like that. Okay, so that is fun. So then we want those to set up just a little bit, okay? So I'm going to put this back kind of in my cup over here that I had, and I'm going to pour the mica, and I'm not going to get all of it out of the cup into here, but I'm going to get as much as I can easily. That way we can kind of mix them and put them into this. Now I'm going to hold down here so my white is not coming out. And I'm going to push the white back up into the other and hopefully create a path for the green to find its way through the white. May or may not work. But then I'm just going to do this to make a fun trinket dish. Look at that. It's coming out really neat. And we are going to have way extra. Now it's about to the rim. Okay, so I didn't plan on this much extra. I need a pretty small-ish mold, but big enough to take a lot of this. Oh, I gotta pay attention. I just about dipped alcohol resin down the side. I've got a mess going, y'all. Got a mess. I'm gonna try this. Okay. Well, the resin is getting pretty warm, which is to be expected. I expect that. Okay. I've got us a mold. So this mold, I was holding this and like it started running down. I'm glad I caught it before it hit the floor. It's almost like the white alcohol ink was coming to the surface there. Okay. This mold is, I believe, to hold a candle, or it could be a small, really small trinket dish. But I believe it's a candle holder. Like, I don't even know what it's really for. But it's going to be perfect to use up a lot of this resin. So then your piping bag is done. And we can now clean up our cups. I think, yeah. I'm going to pour them all into one. And then pour that into the top. And then, truthfully, our timing, I didn't look, but we should be at a point that we need to force the resin to move to create our blooms, our bloomies, our blooming flowers. Which is exciting. Paper cup will get trashed. I stack them usually so they're all stuck together, and then put them in the trash. Resin is fine to throw out as long as it's cured. If it's uncured, you have to properly dispose of it. So I have had resin go bad because I failed to use it. I know, super sad. You gotta be careful if you're stocking up on a sale. Don't overstock yourself. Don't overextend what you can actually use. So I have had resin go bad. I'm gonna give that just a little swirl and then pour it in. So I waited till we had a community hazardous waste cleanup and was able to dispose it that way. Some of it had like crystallized and some was still fluid-ish, but it was definitely thickening. And you can tell, like the yellowing of part B, not so much an issue, especially because we put all this coloring in it. But if your other happens to mix up, it is definitely not good. Okay, now I'm a hot sticky mess, so I'm going to grab a paper towel to put some rubbing alcohol on and clean up my hands before I pull the heat gun out. And we are going to do a little blast on these. Not much, because I don't want to make the resin move with the heat gun so much. I'm going to use a tool to do that. These ones, we've got some big bubbles that kind of came to the surface, so I want to just go ahead and get them popped and out of here, but we're not worried about them. Alright, so you want to find a good silicone brush that you like, a good tip that you like, so that you can draw your lines, essentially. So I am going to pull the resin down on these ones, and I'm going to pull it around to kind of keep that fluid motion. And you don't have to go all the way to the bottom of the mold. You're just wanting to catch the layers of color into your clear, basically. And then I like to do at least one up and out. So this one I'm going to do these centers. And I'm always wiping my tool after each one so that I'm not dragging colorant into the next pull of the piece. And then to end it, I just like to give it a little swirl into the center. Now it is in a pull to the center. It's going to keep blooming and doing its thing, but we're giving it a little guidance, essentially. I'm going to move this guy so that I can work with this without being concerned about hitting that resin. And there's a couple resin patches on here. I could let those cure, but where I'm going to be reaching over, I just don't want to end up putting my wrist in it. So this one, I am going to pull, I'm not going to do the around the edge like this. I'm going to pull down on every petal spot. And some I might not pull all the way to the center, just sort of getting it. So every petal, and we'll swirl that at the end, so I'm not super worried about that. I don't have any like particular, oh, I have to go in this order. You could decide to, you know, work all the way around like I am, or you might do one side, ping pong back and forth. But I have found just going all the way around is helpful. Then on the big center petals, because we have 5 petals, on the center ones, I'm gonna actually pull it out. And I'm going all the way to where I am making a mess outside my mold, which of course, you know, I don't love doing, but I'm wanting that flower tip to really come up. That's what I'm going for. I want that definition of that flower tip going up. So it's just about, on this one, just making sure you keep track of where you are. Okay, so then now that I've done all that, I want to swirl my center just to give it a little bit more of a finished look. And a little bit of our yellow gold has come up, which is kind of cool. It doesn't matter by anything, but pretty neat to see it come up. These are going to look stunning. I know that. Now, you've got to be careful at this phase to not overheat and get your resin heated too much to where it starts just full on flowing, because you're going to start really mixing and the bloom doesn't bloom the way you want. You want that resin thicker like it is. If you were to start really hitting it with the heat, it's going to really start moving, and then you're not going to get that bloom like you want. Now these I'm not so worried about. I am hitting them pretty good because we do have these bubbles that are formed, and I want to try to get them to pop. Which they're being a little bit stubborn, probably because the resin is so thick at this phase that they're really not wanting to. So we will spritz those with a little rubbing alcohol just to ensure that they go ahead and pop. I don't know. Oh, I think I see it. It's over there, but that's okay. This is another little spray bottle that I have of rubbing alcohol. I'm trying to kind of not hit my coasters because they don't really need it. I thought that there was some bubbles forming, but it's actually just some of the lighter glass that is floated to the top. If we spritz these, it would pop those micro bubbles, but it could also affect your blooming, and they look stunning the way they are, so I really don't want to affect the blooming any at this phase. So those look fantastic. And we got this cute Trinket dish, which I think is going to be really cute, and this guy, he just needs another layer and he'll be done. So that's pretty cool. Kind of like an extra thing that you get, you know, with them. But these look fantastic. So I am going to cover them with, I have a brand new one because I have my other one in use. This is just a net for like picnicking, for food covers. And it's got a really fine netting, so little buggies, flies, or anything can't get themselves stuck in our resin. Because nothing is more disheartening to come back into your craft space and see a nasty bug in your resin that was so beautiful when you left it. Can you tell maybe that I've had that experience? Maybe. So, learn from my mistakes is what I'm going to tell you. And get you some of these little nets. They're perfect because they fold up so flat, so I can just hang them in my surface and in my workspace until I need one. And then, oh, this one, yeah, they just pop up like that. Now, I'm going to have to move my stuff that I need to clean. I'm not going to show the cleaning on this part of the video. Y'all have seen it quite a bit. If you haven't, if this is your first series you're watching, sorry, I'm not going to show you how to clean the tools and everything, just due to space and timing. But watch one of my other tutorials. I always show all the steps. I like to show all the steps as much as I can so that you can learn, because how else do we learn? you know, but watching our fellow crafters and learning from their mistakes. So I'm going to just pull these all together that need to be cleaned, put them off to the side, and like I said, I will be doing that off camera. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and the clock kind of starts at this point. So it's almost 11 my time, and so I want them to set for at least 4 hours probably. I might check them at 3 to see if they can be moved, but if they're not quite hard enough, then I will probably wait that extra hour. So let's see, what does that put us at? Like 2. I'll probably check them, and if they look good, then I'll pop a video on and we'll mold them to the shape that we want. We won't touch these 2. We're just touching these 2. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. All right. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.